Good morning, everyone. It is 11 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time here in Brisbane, in Australia, coming to you to deliver another free training to the group, the Healthy Shift Workers group. So, welcome for those of you who are going to join me and you're catching me on the live. Please type in 1, or if you're going to catch me on to the replay, please type in 2 below. It just kind of gives me a bit of an idea of who's joining me when, and to help me to gauge with, changing different times for trainings and so forth. But first and foremost, I'd like to welcome, everyone that's new to this group. It is just wonderful how each week there seems to be a new group of people that are joining the training. It's always nice to see some new faces. So welcome to all of you. Actually, I do want to point out before I get started in the training, I do apologise if there is some background noise going on. Would you believe there is a house being built literally across the street from where I live? So there's a fair bit of ruckus and commotion going on, and I can't do anything about it except for lock all my doors and windows. So hopefully it's not going to be too distracting for the training that I'm going to deliver today. So if you are very new to this group and you haven't, seen me do any of these trainings before, or, who is this person? My name is Audra Starkey. I'm a clinically trained nutritionist based here in Australia. I'm also an accredited trainer and shift work veteran. And most recently, if those of you who have been in the group for a while, you've heard me harping on all about my brand new book, Too Tired to Cook. So I'm now officially an author as of a few weeks ago. So it's a little bit exciting. What I do, though, predominantly is I do a lot of educational kind of stuff. So all about, helping improve the health and well-being through education. And it comes from a preventative lifestyle approach. I focus a lot on that with my trainings, and also really coming more from a lifestyle and a circadian medicine perspective. Circadians meaning is all about our sleep-wake cycle. So that forms a lot of what I do when I, deliver my trainings. So before I get started, of course, I do want to put forward a disclaimer that each and every training that I do within this group, and I know that it does get, shared around a few different places, but please understand that this is all designed to be for educational purposes only. It's not designed to be prescriptive advice. I'm not here to give you specific advice specific for you. That is where I do recommend that you do, see your own specific healthcare practitioner for any conditions that you might be concerned of. So just general educational information that's designed to empower you with that extra knowledge to help you to improve your health while working 24/7. I also want to make forward before I go on and share a little quote by a gentleman by the name of Dr. Andrew Sowell, because I think when it comes to our health and well-being, a lot of us are overanalyzing things and thinking that our health has to be really complicated. So I'm going to talk about stuff that you've probably heard before in some way, shape or form. And you might roll your eyes thinking, yeah, Audra, I already know this stuff. That's fantastic. I'm glad that you do. But are you actually executing it? Are you taking action? Because it's no good having all of this knowledge, or we know that we should be doing this stuff, but you're not actually doing it. So that's something to kind of sit and ponder and think about. Oh, hi, Georgia. How you going? Nice to see you. So please understand that some of this information you might have heard it before, but are you actually implementing the training? So common sense is certainly not common practice. It is definitely something that I've learned over the years from working in practice and even in my own behaviour as well. But I wanted to share a quote from a gentleman by the name of Dr. Andrew Sowell, who is quite a well-known physician. And I love this quote, and he says, "We're having a difficult time accepting a simple strategy." So I want you just to sort of absorb that for just a second for me. So when it comes to our health and well-being, we're having a difficult time accepting a simple strategy. And I think that is so true, because we can be so overwhelmed with information but we're really starving of practical wisdom. And that's really the essence of what I'm trying to do with my trainings, is to take a step back and, really look at this common sense, practical wisdom stuff before heading down the pathway of, doing more further testing, which I'm not discounting. It's definitely a very valid area of clinical medicine, whether it's going to get certain testing done like a CDSA, which is a comprehensive digestive stool analysis, or I'm using big words here, sorry, an FMA, which is a fecal microbial analysis, which can also find out what's going on with our gut health. And it's all very valid and it's all very helpful, but let's talk about the sort of the common sense stuff first. So yeah. Oh, hi Georgia, thank you. It's good to see you. Hey, how are you going? How's your nursing career going? You've done a complete career swap like me, so I hope you're enjoying nursing. And Michelle, thank you for joining me too, all the way over there from the UK. It's always nice to see you here. All right, so let's launch into this particular topic on shift work nutrition. So it's a specific area of shift work nutrition that I'm talking about, and on gut health. Now, I'm going to be quite honest, I could probably do 3 or 4 different trainings on this one, but I'm just on this particular topic. So I'm just talking about it for today. So why have I really honed in when it comes to our shift work nutrition or our shift work health? Why do I want to talk about gut health? Well, first and foremost, shift workers are prone to a whole host of digestive complaints and various different digestive problems. I think we can sort of all relate to it, and there are many, many of them. There's a lot of research that does back it up as well. I've read so much research papers over the years, and always this gastrointestinal complaints keeps coming up in pretty well much everything. So things like constipation, pain, bloating, reflux is common, IBS, which is short for irritable bowel syndrome, diarrhea is another one, maybe a bit of excess flatulence comes out at the inappropriate times as well, and even things like peptic ulcer disease, that I really did see come up a fair bit in the research that I was looking at. So PUD, which is short for peptic ulcer disease, there is that association, and I'm not, also that's something I want to mention, is association does not mean causation as well when it comes to our health. There's that connection, but it's quite different between the two. Of course, you probably don't need to hear about the research per se, because you can probably relate to one or experiencing at least one of those types of gastrointestinal distress or discomfort in some way, shape or form, whatever it is for you. So, but why is this so? Like, why are shift workers so prone to a lot of, digestive complaints? Well, there are many, 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 many factors. So things like sleep disruption is a big one, having a low fiber diet, too much refined sugars is another one. I think we can all put up our hand guilty of not having the best diet when we work shift work. There's a lot of reasons behind that, but that is also going to have a flow-on effect to your gut health, absolutely, for sure. The certain types of foods that you eat, some aggravate our guts more than others, and we're also very different too. What I eat might not affect you, but it could affect somebody else. But definitely there are certain foods that can trigger more about that gastrointestinal upset. Insufficient water intake, absolutely, for sure, is a big driver behind a lot of gastrointestinal complaints. And I know that there are particularly occupations out there where you find it difficult to get that water intake, and I understand that, I get that, but it can definitely have that flow-on effect later on to things like constipation. Stress is a big one, whether it's emotional, whether it's physical, psychological, most definitely has an impact on our gut health for sure, whether it's actually real happening, or even a perceived, we all know that we sort of get, butterflies sometimes or something scares us. It can definitely, upset our gut, that's for sure. Things like an imbalance in good and bad bacteria, otherwise known as dysbiosis. So in our digestive tract, we actually have trillions of microscopic bugs, both good and bad. And that's fine. But when we have an imbalance of too much of the nasty bugs, the pathogenic bugs, they can actually start to release different toxins and so forth, which can cause gastrointestinal upset. So having that can be a driver as to why we end up getting the gut discomfort. Also things like SIBO, which is short for small intestinal bowel overgrowth. Similar kind of thing where we're just getting this too much of this bad bacteria in our gut, or it actually shouldn't be there. We're not meant to be having the microbiome's not really meant to be in the small intestinal bowel. It's meant to be predominantly in the large bowel, and if they kind of escape into that area, then that can also cause a bit of digestive distress as well. And with that can also lead to inflammation, just like dysbiosis, so having that too much of the bad bacteria over the good bacteria can also lead to inflammation as well. So, all of that can certainly contribute, as is, and this is probably really relevant, I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this, is maybe eating too much and eating too often as well, because we know when we work 24/7, we tend to eat 24/7, which is not such a great thing. For those of you who have followed, a lot of my work that I've spoken about over the years, this all comes back to chrononutrition, which is all about, more about when we're eating, not so much as what, but also when. And when definitely plays a big, big role. But if we're eating too much all the time and also too often, what's happening is that something called autophagy is not occurring. Sorry, I know I'm throwing a couple of big words out here. I'll just try and break it down into more English for you. But autophagy, I do talk about it in my book for those of you who have actually already bought it and read it. It is where when we don't eat for a while, it actually allows the lining of the gut to heal. But when we're kind of continually putting food down our mouths and into our stomach, then the delicate cells and tissues within our digestive tract are unable to heal. So they're always under distress continually, like always having to do things. And over time, that can also lead to other chronic gastrointestinal complaints. That's absolutely for sure. So we're not meant to be eating continuously, despite what a lot of the mainstream media has us believing that we need to be eating all the time to keep up our metabolism. But when you think about it, going back into hunter and gatherer days, a long time ago, when the guys would go out and hunt for food for us, and we would, us girls would stay at home and do our thing, there's no way that our hunter-gatherer guys were bringing back food to us every couple of hours to eat. If that was the case, we would have died off, become extinct many, many years ago. So this continual eating is not really optimal either, because it's also has that impact of not allowing your gut to be able to heal, and that's a really important thing to be happening. Of course, the real driver for shift workers and why we do experience these gut disorders really stems back to the sleep disruption, sleep deprivation, sleep disruption, disrupting to that normal sleep-wake cycle or our circadian rhythms, meaning when we're up during the night time, when we really should be sleeping, and vice versa. And particularly night shift is when we definitely or really early in the morning, is that we do tend to feel or experience more of those gut problems. And why is it from a sleep perspective? Well, sleep disruption, it's a form of stress. It really is. And I have mentioned this before, which is not ideal, but really shift workers are biologically stressed, meaning we are stressed right down to a cellular level, because of the impact of having that disrupted sleep-wake cycle. We're doing what we haven't evolved to do as human beings, which is why I've always think shift workers are amazing human beings to be able to do what we do. But it does have health implications, and it comes back to that kind of a stress situation. This can then lead to that disruption in that bacteria, that having too much of the bad bacteria, not enough of the good, and then that can lead to increasing in something called intestinal permeability, otherwise known as leaky gut, which can lead to inflammation and a whole host of other situation. So, that sleep disruption definitely plays a role, unfortunately, with our gastrointestinal health when we work shift work. And of course, when we're eating, 100% plays a role too, as I alluded to before, and I touched on, if you've been following me for so long, I talk about the food timing and from a chrononutrition perspective. This stuff is so important for shift workers to be aware of and understand, because our bodies are not expecting food normally at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. It's when it should really be resting and repairing. So again, if we are eating all different times of the day, and I'm not here to say if you're on night shift and to never eat on night shift again, please understand, I'm not here to tell you that. I know I would get things thrown at me from all directions if that was the case, but it's more about being more mindful of what and when you are eating. And actually, it just reminds me of, just a special shout out to Nick Doss. I know that you were just in this group posting something the other day about going to a nutritionist, asking some advice on what you should ask them. And then you came back and they were sort of saying that this particular nutritionist said to you that when you eat doesn't matter. It all comes back to just, so long as you're keeping your calories, under control. Unfortunately, I actually disagree both to those things. And I'm not here to put any other health practitioner down, but most health practitioners, as I mentioned, Nick, when I was speaking to you, is that they aren't taught about the food timing or chrononutrition through nutrition school. It is just not something. I did 6 years at university and I was never taught anything about it. It's only because I started to ask more questions and different questions when I was talking to my clients that kind of led me down the path to learn more and more about this particular topic. And of course, when a lot of nutritionists, they possibly have never worked shift work themselves, maybe, and they haven't had much of exposure to, shift workers per se. So, as I said, I'm not here to put any other health practitioners down, but just always critically analyze everything. And even from me, we should always be, when someone gives us some advice, we should always sort of take away from it and just think about it more, and then maybe even do some more research on it, because we are our own best doctors. When you think about it, we know our bodies better than anyone ever will. So we need to be listening to that feedback that it gets from whatever the food that we're eating, when we're eating. Listen to that feedback and then take it from there, because what is good for one person is not necessarily going to be ideal for the other. So now I want to just give you some, of course, why you're probably here is to get some strategies, some action steps for you to help to reduce that digestive distress that we experience when working shift work. Now, there are things that we can't change, and I can't change your roster and make it a lot better for you, but all we can do is focus on the stuff that we have control over. And I'm going to get back to, here we go, talking more about these simple things, okay? The simple things, but they can actually make the massive amount of difference. Number one, you're probably going to expect me to say this, but is to prioritize your sleep. Again, I mentioned this into my book, and it's a whole theme throughout my book, is the sleep factor. Because as I mentioned before, sleep is a form of stress. Now, we know when we've got to go to work, we've got to go to work. But I know that there are, most of us these days in our 24/7 switched on society, we are getting even more toxic light exposure than we need to be. And that means that we need to be doing a real serious assessment of our sleep. And I'm sure that there's always plenty of areas where we're having sleep leaks, is probably not the right kind of term for it, but where sleep is actually escaping us, and where we really could be prioritizing it to enhance our sleep. So we want to support our body with that, as much sleep as we can when we can. So stress on the body is what happens when we don't get enough sleep, obviously, and it goes right down to our gut. And when we are continually under stress as well, it causes the stress hormones to be released, things like adrenaline and cortisol over time. Now, cortisol, we might think of cortisol as a bad thing, but it's not. It's a bad thing when it's being released continuously or at inappropriate times. So if we are continually under this stress from the lack of sleep, what happens is that cortisol does kick in, because it is an inflammatory, which is great. However, cortisol is also referred to as a catabolic hormone, meaning it can break things down. So we don't want chronic levels of cortisol because it starts to kind of break things down as well. And this all does affect our gut. So that's number one, is prioritize your sleep. Number two is to chew your food slowly. Now, you might think, yeah, right, Audra, I have to kind of inhale my break in record time because I hardly ever get a break and it's always rushed and so forth. 100% get where you're coming from. I've experienced this myself, I know. But just having this knowledge to be mindful of doing it when you can. So chewing more slowly, because digestion starts in our mouth. Like, we keep thinking gut health, gut discomfort. We just immediately think of our stomach. But the whole process starts in our mouth. It begins with the chewing. The teeth help to break the food down into smaller pieces, so it's not going to cause so much pain and discomfort as it keeps going down our digestive tract. Also, the actual movement of chewing actually triggers the release of stomach acid, which is what we need in order to also break the food down. Low stomach acid is something that is usually a contributing factor for gut health, gut discomfort as well, because if you've got low stomach acid, our stomach needs to be quite acidic to help to break down that food. But if we've got low stomach acid, then that's going to be right from the beginning. Okay, we're thinking in our gut, but it all begins up here in our mouth. So if we can make that conscious effort to chew more, chew slowly, that is going to help things, to reduce that discomfort for you. Number three, and this again, it's going to be obvious kind of stuff, but watch your portion sizes. Now, some of you probably don't know, but our stomach is actually only, when it's got no food in it, is only about the size of our fist. That's it. So when we're eating, we really don't want to be eating, 5 fists worth of food. Like, it does expand, but really it should be about double that size of what we're kind of eating. But if our meals are huge, and of course, and if we're eating them too often, it is undeniably, without a doubt, going to cause some discomfort to your gastrointestinal tract. Everything's going to slow down. It's going to really struggle to digest and break things down, which is going to, prevent your body from obtaining all of that necessary nutrients that it actually receives from the food. It's why we eat. We eat so that our body can then withdraw the nutrients from it to keep us alive, basically. It's the nutrients from the food that really does keep us alive, which is why we should be eating more non-processed food as well. So because the processed food doesn't contain all the nutrients that we need. But getting back to the portion size, just keep that in mind. That is how the size of your fist is the size of your stomach. So if you're eating too much and too big foods, it's going to definitely cause discomfort. Number 4 is to have more liquid nutrition, and you've possibly heard me mention this before. I talk about it in my talks. I've written heaps about it. Definitely more liquid nutrition, purely from the fact, and this is especially during the night, okay, this is really what I'm referring to, especially during the night and into the early hours of the morning, to really have more liquid nutrition. And if it was me, I would actually be telling everyone, and I know that, but when we eat, we do want that texture. I get it, we want that texture, but because our gastrointestinal tracts are actually sleeping, or at least trying to, based on our circadian rhythms as human beings, we are meant to be awake during the day and asleep during the night. But on night shift, we do the opposite. But as our bodies have not evolved to be this way, which means that during the night time, everything slows down. All our gastrointestinal functions slow right down, including things like, enzyme productions, which actually help to break down and digest that food. So knowing that your gut does not function in the same capacity that it does during the day, that it does during the night, if you were to flip your meals like you would like like you're just trying to eat in the opposite, it's highly likely that it's not going to work for you, because the body's not geared for this nighttime nutrient or nighttime food intake. There's many different types of other gastrointestinal functions that slow down, including our pancreas is not secreting enough insulin as well to get that blood sugar down, and that's another whole topic on its own. But just knowing that your gastrointestinal function does not function to the best capacity during the night that it does during the day. So having more liquid type nutrition that is already basically broken down for you is going to reduce that digestive load on your gut. So to help minimize the chances of you experiencing that digestive distress, you really want to nurture and nourish it. And I know you want to be sleeping at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So does your gut. Believe you me, it desperately wants to as well, but it can't. So, but when you're actually giving it food at those times of the day, it's literally triggering your brain almost, or your gut, to think that it's daylight. And that alone can then upset our circadian rhythms even more, which again is also another topic. So having more liquid nutrition, it's also got to be more soothing on your gut, which is the key here. Really, we want to preserve and take care of the very delicate lining of our digestive tract. Incredibly, there's actually only one thin layer of the digestive tract that really does separate from the foods getting into our bloodstream. But we don't want foods to get into our bloodstream. We only want nutrients to get into our bloodstream. But if we, over time, if we're under so much stress and we're eating a lot of high inflammatory foods like the gluten and the dairy and so forth, it can actually lead to, in conjunction with this sleep disruption, which is a form of stress, it can actually lead to this something that I referred to before called intestinal permeability or leaky gut, which can allow things to get into the digestive system which should not be there. That leads to inflammation, and there is actually a strong correlation to intestinal permeability and other autoimmune diseases as well. So soothing and taking care of your gut is got to be of utmost importance when it comes to working shift work, because as I've mentioned before, it's that just sleep disruption alone can cause that upset. And number 5, I want to wrap up with one last one, and it refers to getting to the types of foods now. And it's important to make sure that your diet is really full of quite a high variety of plant-based foods. So what that does, so plant-based foods are very high in fiber, and fiber is the undigestible portion of plant food, which is going to help to maintain that bowel regularity that we want. As plenty of water too. Sorry, I forgot to mention about the liquid nutrition is always having plenty of water, but making sure that helps keep things going, as does having plenty of fiber foods to keep the regularity of your bowel going. Unfortunately for shift workers, if your diet is predominantly a lot of highly refined, processed, prepackaged foods, most of that has very minimal fiber. So if you're having very little fiber in your diet, gut discomfort or gut distress is bound to happen, and you'll just start to see it with that, that constipation, pain and so forth. And over the long term, that's where it can actually lead to other more serious chronic health complaints, things like I was mentioning before, the peptic ulcer diseases and so forth. So making sure that your diet incorporates a high variety of different types of plant food. So your fruits and your vegetables is really important. I know here in Australia, like the recommendations, the dietary guidelines that I have 2 pieces of fruit and 5 servings of vegetables per day, but only a staggering 10% of us are doing that, which is just absolutely crazy when you think about how here in Australia we have an abundant supply of produce and beautiful food, yet so many of us here in Australia are just relying on the processed foods, and that is absolutely going to have a flow-on effect to your health later on, that's for sure. Oh, hi, Mike. How you going? Thanks for joining me. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. So making sure that your diet has plenty of plant-based foods. What that is going to do is it is going to feed your gut microbiome. Remember those microscopic bugs that I was referring to before? Those microscopic bugs, the good ones, they are really important or play a certain role in keeping inflammation in our gut down, because what they do is that they produce things called short chain fatty acids. Butyrate is one of them. This is the microscopic bugs, your gut microbiome. If there's enough of them there and if they're healthy, they can produce these short chain fatty acids to help to keep that inflammation down, which is so crucial. But again, if you're not getting enough fiber in your diet, you're basically starving your gut microbiome or your bugs of food as well. So not only are you starving your own body of nutrients by not giving it sufficient whole foods, plant-based foods, you're not getting the nutrients. Your body's not getting the nutrients, but your gut microbiome is not getting the nutrients either. And there's about 2 kilos, or depending on the research that you read, about 2 kilos worth of gut bugs in our stomach alone. For those of you who are on this crazy weight loss mission, keep that in the back of your mind as well, that you've already got 2 kilos worth of gut bugs, well hopefully you do, that are there for a reason. They're designed to keep you well. And actually that just reminds me, before I forget to mention, is that we need to appreciate that 60 to 70% of our immune system is located in our gut. This is the very system that keeps us well. It keeps us healthy. So, all disease begins in the gut is quite a famous quote by a father of modern medicine, that all disease begins in the gut. So we need to be doing whatever we can to be taking care of it, because over the long term, if we're not doing that, and again, we have this sleep disruption, that it is part of what it is with shift work, and that's a stress. We know that it's there. But if we're combining all these other bad behaviors of eating too much, too often, not having enough fiber, inhaling our food down at a rate of knots, it's going to, you can see the bricks are going to start to kind of build, and you really are going to be doing things that are going to lead to, over the long term, of course this doesn't happen overnight, over the long term can actually have an impact on your health and well-being. So just wanted to mention that, because I think that's important, that we understand our immune system is in our gut, the very system that really does keep us well. And when it comes to eating foods, having that plant-based diet, that it helps to improve the gut diversity, as in the having different types of gut bugs, so that they can then do the things that they are designed to do. And the problem with shift workers, though, too, is that we are, I think, guilty of eating the same types of foods over and over again. And again, if we're also doing that, if we're eating the same foods, I know we do it because it's easy, but if we are eating the same amounts of food all the time, we're not giving them or helping to enhance the gut diversity or that microbiome, or these little bacteria will eventually starve off, and so they're not able to do what they need to do, and it can also lead to that imbalance, so having too much of the bad bacteria. So there we go. There are my 5 action steps and recommendations for you as shift workers to help improve your gut health, and at least lessen and reduce the chances of you over the long term, having other gastrointestinal complaints in the long term. There are many. I could do so many different Facebook Lives on this, but I've just wanted to kind of keep it more succinct and talk about this stuff that really is the foundation of everything. As I mentioned at the beginning, for those of you who do have gut problems, a lot of the first things that we do when we might go and see a healthcare practitioner, and again, I'm not discounting this, but they might just send off you to straight away to get something like that complete digestive stool analysis, or that fecal microbial analysis as well, which are really good, and they're really, really helpful, and they can definitely picture really give your own, clue as to what's going on in your gut. There's a saying that we have in clinical practice is that, testing eliminates guessing. So that's why testing is good, because otherwise, it really does help us to hone in to you specifically of what might be going on in your gut. Maybe you experienced an infection at some point. Maybe you had a parasite infection going on in that you experienced barley belly or something like that, and that's going to have a flow-on effect for potentially years. So, if that's something that you just haven't been able to kind of get on top of it, then that's where getting those types of testing is definitely warranted. But please make sure that you are doing all of those things that I mentioned before. And I'll just recap it again. Oops, I nearly lost my phone there. So number 1 is to prioritize your sleep, because that's a form of stress. Chew your food slowly, okay? So really try and make a conscious effort of doing that. And I know it's easier said than done, particularly the nurses out there. I know one of you guys are just running around at 200 kilometers an hour that we need to inhale it as quickly as possible. But if you do that, you're going to have a gut discomfort going on. And that was so that when we kind of think, I've got gut discomfort, it could be something else. Maybe I need to, take extra stomach acid, prescriptive medications and things like that. But if it's as simple as, slowing down your eating that can actually help to reverse that, then, this is stuff that we can do without the need for certain medications. Portion sizes, making sure that, keeping an eye on, no more than about 2 fistfuls of food and not eating continually. More liquid nutrition and more water. Absolutely. And if anything, that's another reason to have more liquid nutrition and water, is because when we're dehydrated, it adds to our fatigue. And as shift workers, we are already experiencing fatigue because we're tired. So the more water that you have and the more liquid nutrition, and that can be even having more foods that are made up of liquid, like your watermelons and your cucumbers and your zucchinis, having more of those is a sneaky way of getting more liquid nutrition into your diet. Not only is it going to provide you more fiber, it's going to be more easing on your digestive tract, but it's going to help with your fatigue. So it's a bit of a triple thing. Number 5 is to just having that more of a more variety of plant-based food. So mix it up a bit. Next time you're down to the grocery store, buy something you wouldn't normally buy, like a particular vegetable that you maybe haven't seen before, but you want to, or you haven't tried it before. Just buy it, bring it home, Google a recipe to make something out of it. It really does help to add to that gut diversity that we need. And shift workers are prone to this very low fiber diet, which does hands down lead to one of the key drivers behind why we have a lot of digestive distress. So I hope that you found that interesting. I can see that there's been quite a few people that have joined me. Thank you so much. I hope that you found that helpful. I'm all about reverse engineering everything when I do my trainings, because I've found over the years and working in clinical practice, I tend to sometimes we find that we're just really addressing the symptoms all the time. But I like to kind of take a step back and go, okay, well, what are shift workers struggling with? This area of their health, this area of their health, this area of their health. Okay, what can we do to reverse engineer it and stop them from getting these certain chronic health conditions? And it always does come back to education, having that extra knowledge, having that understanding. So, because at the end of the day, we don't know what we don't know, and we can't fix what we don't know. But if you've at least got the knowledge, then you can then take it away with you, do further research if you wish. Most importantly, though, take action on some of the recommendations I put forward, because there is absolutely no, we can become so knowledgeable, but that's not going to make you healthy. And I see this so often with people that go to seminars after seminars, and they attend, all different types of courses and read all different books, which is wonderful, but then they don't take action on it. And that's not what I want for you. I'm trying to improve the health and well-being of shift workers, but I can only give you that information, and then it's down to you to be able to take action on it. And thanks, Leanne. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining me. I hope you found it really helpful. Georgia, Thank you, Audra. Can't wait for my book to arrive. Have you not got your book yet? Oh, I thought you would have had your book by now. It shouldn't be too far away, hopefully. I know that Australia, we only really have copies that only arrived in Australia, probably about a week or so now. They were arriving all over the other parts of the world, but Australia was one of the last places to arrive. But they should be, well, I know people have got them now, so I hope you enjoy reading it. Georgia, there's some airline kind of stuff in there, so an airport kind of stuff, so I'm sure that you'll be able to resonate with bits and pieces that I write as well. So yeah, but anyway, for those of you who have joined me, thank you so much again for catching me on the live. If you are catching me live, please type in 1 below, then I know that you're sort of here and that you caught me on the live. If you're catching me on the replay afterwards, please type in 2. That just allows me to, again, just have a better idea of when people are watching this. I do want to make an effort to mix it up a little bit where I can, because I know that everyone can't get on this, and they never will because of your shifts, I get it, but just trying to find out a good time to be able to deliver these trainings. So yeah, I hope you found it really, really helpful, given you something to think about and to take away from. And oh, hi Christine, how you going? Thank you for sharing my book, by the way. I saw that you did a post sharing my book, which was lovely. So, and I'm glad that you found it helpful as well. Yeah, but as I said, I hope you just find this training helpful. You know, I do this, you know, I volunteer my time voluntarily like this because all I want to do is get this information out there. And that's why I run workshops. I'm doing more and more workshops now, more face-to-face information and even online trainings for certain organisations. But I know that there's people all over the world here, and I know that I'm not going to get the chance to see each and every one of you. So I'm hoping that just popping in here every now and then, along with my podcasts, that I can get this information to you somehow, of course, along with my book as well, because we're in a world where shift work education is pretty much non-existent, and I'm definitely trying to turn that around to help you to help yourself whilst working 24/7. When I hear that people just blatantly say shift work is bad for you, I'm not happy with that. That to me is an unacceptable response for someone to say it's bad for you, just quit your job. It's unacceptable. We need to be actually educating and empowering those that do work shift work, because a lot of you are working in occupations and work environments that are absolutely necessary to keep the world going. And I think you can all appreciate that. Emergency services and transport and manufacturing are just few. So at least by giving you this extra knowledge, then you are able to take it on board and then hopefully share it with others as well. So we can improve, have that healthy shift worker effect, not just here in Australia, but all over the world as well. Christine says, thank you for writing the book. I shared it at work and some of my co-workers have also bought it and joined your Facebook group. Oh, wonderful. Okay. Excellent. Oh, Christine, you're going great guns. Thank you. Perfect. This is what I really want people to do, is to share the love, to share this information out there and to empower people. And not everyone is going to want to do it. I get that, but at least having this area and this place, this group here, it's where it's designed to be just for shift workers, so that you can feel safe and not judged, and have a bit of fun in here as well. I love people who've got a bit of a sense of humour. Shift work's life's too serious to be serious all the time. Life's too short to be serious all the time. We've got to have fun with it, but it's all about coming together and helping each other out. And I can't do this on my own. I do need other people to sort of help share this information. And Christine, that's just gold. What you've just said there is, you sharing it with others, being that healthy shift worker ambassador of sorts, which is what I mentioned in the book as well. I would love to see more and more healthy shift worker ambassadors in workplaces around the world, to make this bigger. And please understand, I'm always continually learning and researching more and more and more. So I'm always trying to add more and more value. Each time I learn more, I'll share it in some way, shape or form with you. Maybe a second book, you never know. I've already had requests for that. Although to be honest, I actually do already have a bit of a structure of what my second book will be. I can't believe I'm even saying that, second book. But I'm quite passionate about this, as you can tell. I just want to get this information out there, and instead of just shutting it down that shift work is bad for us, there has to be a way that we can, embrace ourselves and take care of our own health despite the challenges, and to do it the best way that we can. So George says, I'll now be having soup on my night shifts this week. Yes, absolutely. Seriously, massive difference to that. You just won't, you shouldn't experience that gut discomfort as much. And it's something warm to have as well. We know that our body temperature drops around that 3 to 4 o'clock in the morning, and we can, always relate to you wanting to grab your cardigan or something warm around 3 to 4 o'clock in the morning. That is actually our body doing what it's naturally designed to do, is to drop in temperature at that time to help us to stay asleep, which works if we are sleeping, but if we're at work, that's kind of defeats the purpose. But that's why you feel cold, and having something warm can be a great way to nourish your body and keep you warm as well without having too much of a burden on your digestive tract as well. Mike's come back saying, I've got my broth to try. Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Mike and I were having a bit of a chat a little while about bone broths and, incorporating those as well into, sipping on those during the night as well, because bone broth is so nourishing on the gut. It has, so many nourishing qualities in it to help to heal and seal that gut. It's, very high in protein. It's not going to, trigger off your blood glucose levels and so forth. So it's actually a lovely thing to actually drink during the night. And there's so many different types on the market that you can use. I keep thinking it's Meadowlands, I think, is the brand that I use. I'll put the comment below, but there are all different types. And I know, Mike, that you were looking for one for yourself. So I'm glad that you actually bought it. That's cool. That's great. So I'm hoping that you'll, by starting to implement some of the information that I've shared, Mike, I hope that that's helped, because I know we've had this discussion as well. So I'm hoping that, some of those things that you do will actually help to calm that gut down as well. As I said, it's our door to our immune system. Our gut is our door to our immune system. It is what keeps us well. So we need to be nourishing it where we possibly can. So, yeah. All right, I'm going to wrap up now. Hopefully I can see everyone's comments. My laptop is not working at the moment, so I'm a little bit, kind of feel like I've lost my arm. So I'm not able to sort of publish a lot of my blog posts and everything this week. I've had a bit of a hiccup in things, so I can't see if I've missed other people's comments. I'm sorry, I'm only going off my phone here and what I can see. But feel free, if you've got any other comments or anything that you wanted to make mention, if you're catching this on the replay, just leave the comment below, and I will make sure that I read it later on. So, yeah. All right, well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. I hope you found that helpful. Have a good week, whatever day it is for you today. What is it, Thursday? Could be your Monday, whatever it is for you. All right, okay, bye.